Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that is louder than ever, where opinions race, noise dominates, and everyone feels the need to speak just to be heard, there lies a forgotten power in the art of silence. We are taught to hustle, to chase, to constantly strive, but we are rarely told to be still. And yet that stillness, that quiet, has a magnetic strength few understand. Today, I want to invite you into a deeper truth, not one you'll find in the chaos, but one revealed only when the world grows quiet around you and you grow quiet within. This message isn't about hiding from life. No, it's about mastering the most powerful tool you already possess, your ability to observe, to reflect, and to allow life to unfold naturally, without force. So lean in. Let's speak about silence, not as weakness, but as one of life's greatest forms of strength. In a world filled with endless distractions, constant notifications, and the pressure to always be doing something, silence has become a rare and undervalued experience. Yet, it is within that silence that clarity begins to emerge. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of awareness. When we step away from the chatter of the outside world and the noise of our own restless minds, something incredible happens. We begin to see things as they really are, without distortion. Most people believe clarity comes from talking things out, asking others for advice, or analyzing every possible scenario. While these actions can be useful, they often cloud judgment rather than sharpen it. The more we talk, the more confused we can become. Opinions multiply, fears amplify, and emotions stir. In contrast, when we choose silence, intentional, conscious silence, we begin to hear the deeper voice within ourselves. It is not dramatic, not loud, but it is wise. It speaks softly, with a sense of knowing that comes from stillness, not noise. Think about a muddy glass of water. When you stir it constantly, the mud stays suspended and the water remains unclear. But if you set the glass down and let it sit in silence, the mud settles. The water becomes clear. The same principle applies to the mind. When we are constantly agitated by conversations, media, expectations, or self-talk, our thoughts remain muddy, but when we become still and silent, our thoughts settle. What is truly important begins to rise to the surface. Silence gives us space to reflect without reacting. In that space, we can examine our own motives, desires, and fears without the influence of external opinions. It helps separate what we think we want from what we actually need. Many people make decisions out of panic or peer pressure. They act fast because they fear missing out. But decisions made in haste are often regretted. Silence gives time. It gives the luxury of stepping back, breathing, and allowing our deeper wisdom to guide us rather than the temporary noise of emotion. When the mind is quiet, we also begin to notice things we usually overlook. Body language, tone of voice, the energy in a room, these subtle cues are drowned out by our own mental noise. But in silence, we notice them. We understand people better. We pick up on truths that aren't spoken. We read situations more accurately. Silence sharpens not just the inner vision, but our external perception too. Silence allows us to recharge. Constant talking, constant planning, constant thinking, all of it drains our energy. But silence is restorative. It calms the nervous system, relaxes the mind, and invites creativity. New ideas often don't come when we're forcing them. They appear when the mind is still while walking alone, sitting quietly, or simply staring into space. The best ideas, the most powerful insights, the clearest realizations, they rarely arrive in chaos. They arrive in quiet moments. Silence is where the truth resides. It does not demand attention, but it rewards it. It waits patiently until we are ready to listen. In silence, masks fall away, pretenses disappear, and we meet ourselves raw, real, and clear. Observation beats reaction because it allows you to respond from a place of clarity rather than impulse. When you observe, you step outside the chaos and give yourself a moment to understand what is really happening. You are not being pushed by emotion, ego, or the need to immediately act. You are gathering data, reading the room, and seeing the deeper patterns at play. In contrast, reacting is often automatic. It's quick, emotional, and frequently based on incomplete information. People who constantly react are like leaves blowing in the wind, at the mercy of whatever force hits them next. When you observe, you are grounded. You are not jumping into conclusions. You are listening more than speaking. You are watching body language, tone of voice, timing, and energy. You are noticing things others miss, like hesitation in the voice, a glance that reveals uncertainty, or a pattern in someone's behavior that others overlook. This awareness gives you an advantage. It makes you wise. You see beneath the surface. You begin to recognize what drives people, not just what they say. And that's where real power lies, not in reacting loudly, but in knowing quietly. Observation creates space. That space is where maturity lives. In that space, you can choose how to act instead of being pulled by how you feel. It protects you from saying something you'll regret, from making a decision based on temporary emotion, from burning bridges in a moment of anger. When you observe, you begin to slow time down. You notice your own triggers, and rather than reacting to them, you understand them. You take control of yourself instead of being controlled by the moment. Reactions often escalate problems. One person yells, the other yells louder. One person criticizes, the other defends. It becomes a cycle of emotion with no direction, but observation interrupts that cycle. The observer doesn't take the bait. The observer waits, watches, learns. And when they finally speak or act, it's not out of emotion, it's out of insight. Their actions carry more weight because they are not impulsive. They are deliberate, strategic, thoughtful. In relationships, this is crucial. A person who reacts may say things they don't mean, assume the worst, or make the situation worse than it is. But a person who observes can see that a sharp comment might come from fear. That anger might be hiding pain. That silence might mean someone is struggling, not ignoring. Observation helps you empathize because it lets you see what's behind the behavior, not just the behavior itself. This leads to deeper understanding, and from that, stronger connections are built. In business, observation reveals hidden opportunities. While others chase trends, the observer waits and watches for what others haven't noticed yet. They understand timing. They spot weaknesses in a competitor's approach, patterns in customer behavior, and shifts in market energy. They don't act for the sake of acting. They act with precision because their decisions come from deep attention. In every area of life, whether it's communication, leadership, growth, or discipline, the person who can observe will always outpace the person who simply reacts. Energy builds in stillness because stillness is not the absence of activity. It's the concentration of power. When we are still, we are not wasting our energy on noise, movement, or reaction. Instead, we are conserving it, refining it, and focusing it inward. The same way a muscle grows stronger during rest, our inner energy multiplies when we allow ourselves moments of deep silence and non-action. It may look like nothing is happening on the outside, but within, a transformation begins. In a constantly moving world, people confuse motion with progress. They think that running harder, working longer, or pushing non-stop will bring them success. But often this only leads to exhaustion and scattered energy. When you are always moving, always reacting, you are pouring your energy out in many directions. That weakens your focus and drains your power. Stillness does the opposite. It gathers all your scattered parts, brings them back into alignment, and makes your presence stronger. When you sit in stillness, you begin to notice your thoughts. You are no longer caught in them. You are observing them. This awareness pulls your energy out of distraction and back into the center. You begin to feel your breath, your heartbeat, your emotions. You are no longer chasing the outside world. You are recharging from within. That's where real strength begins, not in doing more, but in being more present. Stillness also builds emotional strength. When you pause instead of reacting, you train yourself to master your emotions. That doesn't mean you suppress how you feel. It means you understand what you feel before expressing it. Most people waste their emotional energy in arguments, drama, overthinking, or over-explaining. But those who practice stillness create emotional discipline. They hold their energy like a warrior holds his sword, not to swing wildly, but to strike with precision when needed. Mental energy grows the same way. In stillness, the mind stops chasing every new idea, every fear, every distraction. It becomes clear, focused, and sharp. This clarity gives birth to insight. That insight is power. You begin to think with purpose rather than noise. Creativity rises from stillness, not from chaos. The greatest breakthroughs often appear not when you're thinking hard, but when you finally stop thinking and allow space for the answer to come. This is why people often say their best ideas come in the shower or during a walk alone. Those moments are stillness in motion. Even physically, the body responds to stillness. The nervous system calms, the breath deepens, and the tension releases. In that state, the body repairs itself, energy is restored, and the mind becomes alert. Stillness is not laziness. It is recovery. It is how you prepare for the next challenge. Athletes understand this. Rest is part of the process, not separate from it. So is the same in life. If you keep running without pause, you will burn out. But if you rest with intention, you will rise stronger. When you practice stillness regularly, whether through meditation, silence, solitude, or even a few quiet minutes a day, you build an invisible energy that others feel. You walk differently. You speak with more authority. You don't need to force your presence. It speaks for itself. This is the kind of energy that commands attention without trying, influences without effort, and attracts success without desperation. People respect quiet confidence because it represents a deep, unshakable belief in oneself that doesn't need validation from others. It's not loud, it's not boastful, and it doesn't beg for attention. Instead, it speaks through actions, consistency, and presence. People are naturally drawn to individuals who carry themselves with assurance, yet don't feel the need to prove it. This kind of confidence is rare because it's built from within, not constructed by applause or fueled by ego. It reflects someone who knows who they are, what they stand for, and where they're going without needing to announce it. Quiet confidence comes from competence. When someone is truly skilled, they don't have to brag about it. Their results speak louder than their words ever could. This creates a sense of trust and reliability. Others feel safe around someone who is calm under pressure, who doesn't get flustered, who listens more than they speak, and who delivers without drama. In workplaces, in relationships, and in leadership, this type of calm assurance earns respect quickly and deeply. People begin to rely on you not just for your abilities, but for your steadiness. You become someone others turn to in times of uncertainty. This confidence also creates space for others. Loud, attention-seeking behavior often comes from insecurity. It can feel like competition, like someone trying to outshine everyone in the room. But quiet confidence doesn't compete. It inspires. It makes others feel empowered rather than overshadowed. A quietly confident person can walk into a room, observe, and allow others to shine, knowing that doing so doesn't diminish their own light. That self-possession is powerful. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to prove it. People also respect quiet confidence because it suggests depth. When someone isn't constantly talking about their successes or pushing their opinions, we assume there's more going on beneath the surface. It creates intrigue, not for the sake of manipulation, but because real strength doesn't need to be advertised. It just is. This mystery often draws people in. It makes them want to understand more, to learn how someone became so calm, so sure, and so focused. Quiet confidence allows for humility. It creates room for learning and growth because the person doesn't need to pretend to know everything. They can admit mistakes, ask questions, and continue improving without fear of looking weak. That's why people admire it. It's not a mask. It's not defensive. It's not fragile. It's resilient and real. In a world full of noise and showmanship, that kind of presence stands out. There's also something deeply grounding about being around someone with quiet confidence. They don't overreact. They don't take things personally. They don't gossip or dramatize or chase approval. They move with purpose. They speak with intention. And they value quality over quantity in their words, in their relationships, and in their commitments. This kind of person brings calm into chaotic situations. They lead without dominating. They earn respect not through control, but through consistency, integrity, and inner strength. That's why people remember them long after they've left the room. It's not just about what they did or said. It's about how they made others feel. Safe, and sane, steady. People respect that. They trust it. And they're naturally drawn to it because at its core, quiet confidence is proof that real power doesn't need to be loud. Attraction replaces force because what you draw to yourself naturally is more powerful and lasting than anything you chase with pressure. Force is rooted in desperation, control, and insecurity. It's the energy of needing to make something happen, often through manipulation, fear, or constant effort. Attraction, on the other hand, comes from alignment. When you embody what you desire, whether it's success, love, influence, or opportunity, you begin to attract it without pushing. People, situations, and outcomes are pulled toward you not because you demand them, but because you reflect the energy they seek. When someone operates through force, they exhaust themselves. They try to convince, persuade, or pressure others into agreement. They chase recognition, over-explain their worth, or try to dominate every space they enter. But force creates resistance. The more someone tries to control, the more others pull away or react defensively. It might bring short-term results, but it rarely brings trust or respect. People can feel when they're being pressured. They instinctively resist it, even if they don't know why. Force disrupts flow. It brings tension. It breaks connection. You might get compliance, but never true loyalty or belief. Attraction is quieter, but far more powerful. It works from the inside out. When you become someone who radiates confidence, clarity, and purpose, others feel it. You don't need to chase anyone. They come to you. You don't have to argue your value. It becomes self-evident. Attraction works because it creates pull instead of push. It draws things in through gravity, not effort. It's not passive, but it's intentional. It's about being so aligned with your truth, your goals, and your energy that the right people and opportunities recognize themselves in you. This is why self-mastery is so important. The more you know yourself, the more attractive your energy becomes. People are drawn to clarity. They're drawn to those who aren't trying to impress, but who are fully present. When you know your worth, you don't beg for attention. When you have vision, you don't force plans. You allow them to unfold with discipline and patience. When you value your time and energy, others begin to do the same. This is attraction in motion. The difference between force and attraction also shows up in leadership. A leader who uses force may get obedience, but a leader who inspires through presence and purpose gains devotion. In relationships, the person who forces affection pushes others away, while the one who simply loves and lives authentically becomes magnetic. In business, companies that force sales lose trust, while those that attract through value build loyalty. Attraction is sustainable. It builds long-term bonds because it's based on truth, not pressure. When you live in a state of attraction, you're not chasing anything, you're becoming it. You stop needing external validation because your internal state reflects the outcome you desire. This doesn't mean you don't take action. It means your action comes from alignment, not anxiety. You speak when it adds value. You move when it makes sense. You wait when it's not your time. And because of that, what's meant for you finds its way to you, not by force, but by resonance. People recognize your energy because it feels like clarity, not chaos. It feels like peace, not pressure, and that's what draws them in. So let us remember this. The most powerful outcomes in life are not forced. They are attracted. The strongest presence in the room is often the quietest, not because it lacks power, but because it doesn't need to prove it. When you master stillness, when you hold your energy with intention, when you stop chasing and start aligning, everything you seek begins to seek you. Respect, success, clarity, and connection. They all flow more naturally to those who are grounded in silent strength. So stay silent, stay focused, and let the world come to you, not because you demanded it, but because you became ready for it.